for Jordanstown and Belfast campus. Jordanstown is obviously being nearly closed down, but we do possibly have a few of our researchers still based at Jordanstown, mainly in the fire cert area. So if you are from Jordanstown, welcome. As I say, most of our PhD researchers now are based on the new Belfast campus. My colleague Sarah is on the call, and Sarah is my counterpart, and she would probably have met most of you if you have registered at McGee or the Coleraine campuses. So we have two doctoral college offices covering all four campuses, as it were. So Sarah's going to be on the call this morning, and she'll manage the chat function. So if you have any questions, it's just there's so many people on the call, it's probably going to be difficult to answer questions as we go along. So if you don't mind using the chat function just to pop in any questions that come into your head, Sarah will ably manage that.
I'll do my best. If I don't have a near instant answer, I will come back to you, and I'll let you know that I'll come back to you. Just to let you know as well that this session is being recorded. So I've hit the red button, so I've remembered. That's a good start.
So don't worry if you don't take everything in today. You can go back to the recording if you're really desperate, or just give us a buzz, which might be easier. There's just probably a few people can't make it today, so it's easier to just record and then we can distribute that. Cool, that is great. I'm sure a lot of you have already been in the PhD Manager system. Some of you might actually have even booked to attend this event, which means you've maybe ticked off a few of the boxes already, and you might be a little bit familiar with the system. If you haven't, there's still plenty of time. We just want to give you a quick run through and maybe a demo of some of the functions that you might use the system for. I suppose to start then, what is PhD Manager? It's not a new system anymore. Up until last year, we were still calling it a new system. We've had it in place for about 3 years now, and it's basically replaced all what used to be paper forms with a kind of system that pulls everything together. So you as PhD researchers will have access to the system. Equally, your supervisors have access. When you get further down the line and you're at the point of doing your final Viva, the examiners also have access to the system. So it's a way of making everything paperless. You used to have to print off big thick copies of a thesis for an examiner to read. Now it's all done electronically through the system. So we find it really good. Sometimes I would say, just full disclosure here, that you might need to push your supervisors a little bit, just to keep, if you're making a request or anything for a leave of absence, or if you want to change your project title, these are all kinds of things that you'll do within the system. Sometimes the supervisor needs to approve that at their end. So just maybe keep on top of them a wee bit of managing up and make sure that they get things through for you in good time. So really just wanted to, start with a wee rundown of the system, see where we get from there. If you have any questions, as I say, just pop them into the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. So today I'm going to use a demo system which has randomized data. So I'm going to log in just to show you what you'll see as researchers. I'm going to just share my screen here, and I'm going to log into our demo system, if I can bring it up. And in the demo system, all the names are really odd, so I don't even know how to pronounce this girl's name, but I'm logging in as Therese Barton. Could have probably found someone that's a bit easier to pronounce his name, but you'll see something like this when you go in. On your front page, it'll give you some just basic information about your account details, as it were, and which unit you're aligned to. If you click through into PhD Research Project, this will give you a lot more information. I suppose the first thing to see is there's a small summary of your timeline in the table that you can see here. In this randomized data system, there's a lot of red, so this person has not met deadlines, etc. But it's just for the purpose of demonstration. So you'll have your start date, and you'll probably have a project end date. That might be all you have at the moment on your system. What'll happen is when deadlines come, and if you have missed a deadline and the system sent a reminder, you'll start to see this side of the table populating. So basically, I suppose the first thing to do when you log in is just to check that your details are correct. So it'll list your supervisors, your project status will be active, and just check your mode of study is okay and that you're registered on the right program. At this point in time, the title of your project may not have pulled through yet. So it might be a good idea after this, if your project is still saying, what does it say, Sarah? It says something like research project title or something.
Yes, I think it says PhD project or something similar. There is a bit of manual work that we have to do to input those project titles because they didn't pull through automatically. But if we give it a few days, we should have that up and going. Also, there were a few, just when I remember, there were a few people in our medicine unit, and some information wasn't pulling through for them, but it is now live and working for you. But if you have any issues, just get in touch with me. I can check that out.
The other thing you can do, just if you wanted to test out the system, is put through a change and modification of your program, to update the project title yourself. But as Sarah says, our team will probably have that done in the next week or so. It's just a manual exercise when we're pulling your details into the new system. So just to start then, I'm going to go down the menu on this right-hand side of the screen. So if we start with project history, what this will do is it'll pull through every engagement you've had with the system in just a big list. So if you've had a supervision meeting, it'll be recorded with a date. You can click into each event and view the details as well. Every training course that you sign up for and attend will be recorded here. And every milestone you've done as well. So literally it's basically a copy of everything that you have engaged with the system for. So it's quite a good record for yourself just to keep an eye on, more like a summary details. The next one down is project dates, and this will give you basically the milestone dates for your project. As I say, it will give you an initial assessment, date confirmation, final assessment. These are all your kind of interim milestones, which I know they probably talked about at your induction programme. It'll set dates for them, and reminders will be sent if you have missed any deadlines. But this is just really to give you an idea of what's ahead of you, if you like, in the process. So that might be quite a useful screen for you as well. The next thing I wanted just to show you is the third one down is supervision meetings. So this would be a key part of the system. And I will go through this and show you how to actually log a supervision meeting. Some of you might have already been on this and done this already. If not, it doesn't matter. I suppose our expectations for supervision, first of all, is that you would probably hold one formal recorded supervision meeting per month for full time. If you're studying on a part-time basis, that might be every other month that you'll have a formal recorded meeting. So you might be meeting your supervisors at this stage weekly. You might be having meetings in coffee shops with them, more informal meetings. But as long as you're recording one meeting formally on the system, that's probably what we want at this stage. The other thing to say about supervision is that through different times in your programme, you might find you're needing to meet your supervisors more regularly and at other times maybe less. So don't worry if that kind of fluctuates. As long as you are getting what you need and your supervisors, just in agreement with them, you'll kind of plan how many supervision meetings you need. So I'm just going to start a supervision meeting here just to show you how to plan one. You go into there, you just want to kind of say who you want to participate in the meeting. So it might be, you might have some supervision meetings where your full supervisor team need to attend. You might have some where you're only needing to meet one or two. Depends on the size of your team and which point in the project you're in. So I'm going to just say that we want the full supervision team and myself, Iris. What you would do is you would put in a meeting date. It's just a date filter here. Time, so a time that you want to meet them. I'll just put in 10 a.m. and a location. You know, if you know the location at that stage, it might be your own office. You might want to meet your supervisors in the dock. It depends, or in their office. So I'll just put blah blah blah. The other thing you want to put is if it's an in-person meeting, which you probably will want to be having in-person meetings at least once a month. Especially for our international cohort, it's a requirement of the terms of the visa that at least one in-person meeting is held with your supervisors and recorded on the system every month. So I'm just going to make this an in-person meeting. You might have other meetings that are in different formats. So if you want to set them all up through the system, you can do, but as long as at least one meeting is recorded a month, as I say, that's all we're asking at this stage. Discussion notes. So if you have something specific that you want to discuss in your supervision meeting, maybe it's reviewing a draft chapter you have, you can just let the supervisors know what, you know, so they have a brief on what you want to discuss with them. At this stage, I would say maybe a lot of this is going to be led by your supervisor, so they'll be guiding you more so don't worry if you don't have too much to say for your first meeting. The agreed action points will be completed after the meeting, so you don't need to complete that at this stage. The other thing is if you have any files, so say you do have a draft chapter or a few pages that you've written, you can upload that. Then if you save and continue that will basically just process it through, and your supervisors will get notes that you want to meet them, they can confirm or whatever. The key thing is after you've held the supervision meeting that your supervisors will just confirm that the meeting took place. You'll both be going in and you'll be maybe updating notes and as you saw there, the action plan as well. So any agreed outcomes and stuff, just keep a full note of this. It means you can go back at any point in the future and see, you know, what the plan was. You'll see the status bar in PhD Manager. There's always a status bar comes up to tell you where you are with that particular request. So in this case, it's a supervision meeting. We'll look at this in more detail when we go through different aspects of the system, but it just means you can always check where any of your requests are sitting. So if they're sitting with the supervisor for approval, they might be sitting with your research director for final approval. You can always see where it is in the system. So that would be in terms of supervision meetings. Just going to go back in, and the next section we have here are your assessment. So they're the milestones that we're talked about. So initial assessment, normally January time. Confirmation assessment might be June time for you guys, and just double that if you're part-time again. So I don't want to go through every one of these, but I'll just show you the initial assessment at this stage because that's probably all you're interested in at this moment in time. And as I say, this will be likely to be January time when you'll be required to do this. So you just click into it. You want to create a new application. And it's asking if you want to go ahead with this, if you want to begin it. So we'll just start. In this system, it always asks, please confirm the details shown below are correct. It's just basically if anything is incorrect at any point, it's prompting you to update them on the system. So if you've had a change in supervisors or change in project title, you know, this is all this is. So I'm just going to quickly confirm that they're correct, and then it'll take us into the initial assessment report. So in terms of the initial assessment, the guides will tell you what you need to do in your particular area. So it's likely that you'll be probably submitting maybe a 3 or 4 page document at this stage, along with a Turnitin report, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with Turnitin. It says plagiarism detection software. And what you need to do at each milestone is you run your report through that software and you submit the output report. That's done through Blackboard, and there's details on that. So the first thing you would do is you would be uploading your short report. You will also then upload your Turnitin report. And any additional files, so you might have a Gantt chart or something that you also want to attach, you can do that. I'm just going to see if this will let me do it without going in and uploading everything. Probably not, no. It won't let me do it because anything with an asterisk in the system is a required field. So I'll just have to go in and try and upload anything at all. Just upload my child's school report. I'm sure they'll like that. Do the same again. So you upload all the details and then save and continue. And that'll take you to the next section. So we've just done report. We're now on the practice. Practice is only applicable if you are probably in art and design, maybe some areas of music, performance. So you'll know if your program has a practice component. For most of you guys, it will be 100% on your thesis, but some areas might require practice. So it could be a composition, a piece of music, could be sculpture, artworks, anything like that. So I'm just going to tick no at the moment, but if you do have that, then you would fill in this section. So we'll submit that. Then it's asking you just to outline how you intend to develop your proposal. Again, that's a mandatory field, so we'll just put this in. I will show you after we've been through this where you can find details of the expectations for each unit of assessment, so each research area. They have a handbook, which you're probably aware of, and you'll find more details on what you need to put in your initial assessment paperwork through the handbooks. So this is quite good. This is prompting us to talk about the research integrity course. So before you have undertaken your initial assessment, you have to have completed that research integrity course, which I know probably has been discussed at the induction sessions. It's an online course in Blackboard that you have to complete. The system physically won't let you proceed unless you have completed that course. So the details, I don't know if some of you, I know some of you have already gone on and completed this course. If you haven't, the details are on your dashboard. I think Sarah might be able to just pop them into the chat just now, just the link to that if needs be. But that's something you need to complete before you complete your initial assessment. So sometime between now and December, if you can go on and do that course, what will happen is it'll update in the system. So it sometimes does take a couple of days for it to update. So don't go on and try and do research integrity just the morning of your submission for your initial assessment, because it will take a wee while to show up on your system. So the other thing it's saying here is that you should have completed your training needs analysis. Now, I know that was probably also talked about a little bit at induction, and I'll show you this section as we go through it's later on, and it was further down below in the menu in PhD Manager, but that's something that you would want to be looking at quite early on with your supervision team. So these two things need to be completed first. So I'm just going to do that. The other thing is this will automatically pull through anything that you have already done. So if you've done any courses, it'll automatically pull that through as part of your report. So you don't need to do that manually. Risk assessment, if you're working with like children or vulnerable adults or anything like that, you might need to do a access NI check or risk assessments depending on your project. Your supervisors will guide you in that, but if you do need to do that, then they'll ask you to upload it here. So I'm just going to save and continue for this purpose. So that's all you need to do from your end in terms of setting up your initial assessment. You're basically just uploading your Turnitin report and your actual, your submission. You can see from the status bar, it's waiting for submission. It's still with you. So I haven't been able to do that because you haven't done I haven't done the research integrity course, and you can always go back in and edit the application. Once you've done that and submitted successfully, the status will be updated to say that it's awaiting, basically awaiting a date to be arranged and entered into the system. So it then moves from you back to your local level support team. So your research area staff. they'll then sort out a date and a time and a venue and everything. They'll log that onto the system. You can go in and into the system and find out, you know, about that as well. What then happens is it'll go through to the supervisors. They'll write a wee bit as well, and then after the assessment, you'll get notification back that it's been successful, and with maybe any notes that you might need. So you can follow the progress always through this system. You just need to go back into initial assessment, and you can see at any point where it is in the process. So the confirmation assessment and final assessment work exactly the same way, so I'll not bother going into them at the moment. The annual report is the next section. So the annual report is something that we ask all of our researchers to submit by the 1st of May every year. So sometimes we have people who start in January and they ask the question, well, I've really only done a few months, is it necessary? It's useful for us to know how you found, you know, induction and things. So we need it every year of your programme as part of the progression into the next academic year. So the important thing to note about the annual report process is that it's completely confidential. So you'll see when we go through this that the form that you're asked to complete as researchers is kind of a bit like a satisfaction survey, in that it'll ask you, you know, how you're finding things in terms of your supervisors, how support from doctoral college, support from your local level teams. So it's really important that if you have anything that's not working out for you, especially, it's good to know if everything's positive as well. But if you have any issues, that you log it on this form. It's confidential in that your supervisors won't see what you've written, which is very important. The person who'll be looking at it is your research director. So if you have any issues at all, you know, that's the person that will pick up the issues and get back to you directly. They won't go to your supervisors, or in the first instance, they'll go back to you and ask how you want to resolve it. So the supervisors also, at the same time as you submitting this form, they are also submitting a report about your performance as well. So it's a kind of two-pronged you know, kind of process, and the research director will look at both reports together and make a decision on progression to the next academic year. Normally, you know, as I say, there's no issue, but it just picks up if we have anyone who's gone AWOL or whatever, it picks up that kind of thing, and hopefully we can put in more support, you know, to help you if you're having any issues. So this process, again, there's different sections to this form. Attendance, that's just the period spent since the submission of last report. In your instance, it'll be from 16th September, you know, 2022 or whatever. And it's just covering the period. So if you have been maybe away on research, you know, research study visit, just detail that here. That's just a bit about attendance. I don't know if it's going to let me, yeah, it does let me progress through. So this is the bit I was talking about. It's kind of like a satisfaction survey. So it's asking you if you're satisfied with the quality and timeliness of support by your local team, and you just rank it and put any comments in. With support from the doctoral college, just rank it, put any comments, especially if there's something that is proven to be an issue. So if you definitely disagree that, you know, you're satisfied, definitely put comments in, because we can't really do much if it's, you know, if it just says we really don't agree that we're getting support. But if you don't write anything about it, it's hard for us to kind of look at. So just go down quickly as well. So that's support from your supervisors, and that's level of contact and substantive meeting with your supervisors. So as they're your key points of contact, we want to know both that you're getting good feedback, but also that you're happy with the number of times and their availability as well. Understand, of course, they do have other jobs to do, but it's just to ensure that you're both happy with the contact that you're having with your supervisors. We also ask about provision of resources. And again, if there's anything there that is a concern, just put that in here. And then the research environment is another quite important one to make sure that you're happy with, you know, just the culture, because the PhD can be, you've probably heard from many people, quite a lonely experience if you don't have, you know, a good research culture in your area. So that's useful to know as well. Oh, it's going to ask me to put, it's going to ask me just to put in something to get through to the next bit. Really, I'm very satisfied, but easier for me to pick this. Let's see. Under progress then, this is a summary report of progress to date. Now, most people I think would probably have it prepared in advance, maybe in, you know, in a Word document and just copy and paste it in. So that's just a summary, just really as it says, a summary of progress. So what you've been working on since your last report. It's useful to know if you might have taken a period of leave of absence, you know, during that year. So just note that in there, that your progress has been a bit slower because you've had some time out. And just a summary, I suppose it's just a log of year on year how you're progressing with your thesis. So let me see, it'll put down your target submission date, and then it's just asking you if you think you're going to be able to meet that date. So I'm going to be positive and say yes at this stage, hopefully. Right. The last part then is about the researcher development programme, and similarly is just a summary on what you know, if you're satisfied with the provision. I keep updated, and then it's asking you to confirm what you do to keep yourself updated. So I'm just going to say I am a big Twitter fan, and there we go. I'll ask you how many workshops. So this is just to make sure that, I suppose it's to make sure that if you're saying you're not happy with the provision, that you are engaging, or you know, vice versa. So that's how that works. And yeah, it clearly, if you are dissatisfied, it really helps to write some comments about that, just so we can, you know, we know how to improve. So that's really all you need to do for the annual report. And I say the main thing with that is that it is completely confidential. We would hope that you would know that there's enough other support mechanisms around where if something is going really not too well, that you would come to us or go to your postgraduate tutor or your research director before things get to this stage. So this is only once a year. If you start having problems in September, now hopefully you won't, but if you start having problems, you know, don't wait for the annual report to record this. You know, do hope you'll, you know, feel comfortable to either come to ourselves or go to your local level support teams, you know, to discuss things early on in the process. But that's the annual report, which is, funnily enough, annual, and it is every year that we would expect that, because we then look at that in terms of progression. So I'm not going to go for submission examination at this stage because it's too far down the line for you. Change request is another big section that we have here, and change request covers extensions of time, which is not until you're at the very end of your programme. So after 3 years for full-time or 6 years for part-time, if you still aren't ready to submit, you'll need to apply for an extension. Transfer of mode of study is if you are wanting to change from full-time to part-time or vice versa. Sometime towards the end of your programme, if you maybe get offered a job and you need to give up your scholarship to start work, you can transfer to part-time mode of study. If you want to transfer from PhD to MPhil, there's a form for that. Study away is if you're going to be maybe doing a research visit somewhere, or conference, anything for, I think, Sarah, is it more than 2 weeks? You have to put a study away in, I think.
Pardon, sorry, a leave of absence
Sorry.
away.
Sorry, I was just going to say the study away, is that more than 2 weeks or?
Yeah, I think so. But
Yeah,
there's guidance on it anyway in the guides section
Yeah,
of
yeah,
PhD Manager if you want to double
Yeah.
check when anyone
Yeah.
goes to do something like that. Yeah.
That's great, thank you. Leave of absence is the one that I wanted to probably just run through with you. thesis title modification programme of work, that's the one that I was suggesting if you wanted to have a wee play about the system. I don't think any of your projects are through at the moment, so if you wanted to test it with a change of title, you can do that. Hopefully you're not thinking about request and withdrawal at the moment, but if you are, this is this is where you'll find the form. So I just wanted to go into leave of absence here. There's a difference between a leave of absence and an absence, which isn't obvious to everyone. Sometimes it's not obvious to me either. So a leave of absence would be if you were needing to take time out that you wouldn't otherwise cover with an absence. So you know how you would sometimes self-cert if you were at work or whatever. If you're doing anything more than 2 weeks, if you're you know going to be ill, or if you know if it's a longer term illness that's going to be longer than 2 weeks, then you would submit a leave of absence form. The leave of absence form, there's new terms and conditions which are more generous in terms of paid sick leave. It used to be if you took a leave of absence for any reason other than maternity, your stipend stopped. So it's quite important that you understand that you know that will happen. A leave of absence basically stops your programme and it will give you the time on at the end. So it's if you absolutely can't work on your thesis, say for maybe 3 months, you would put in a leave of absence, and you would get the 3 months at the end of the programme. Whereas an absence, you're kind of expected, if it's say a 2 week, you say you have the flu or something, just put in an absence and it's just your payment continues, but you don't get that additional time at the end of your programme, if that makes sense. The leave of absence, as I was saying, the guidance for our funded researchers has changed. The terms and conditions have changed, and you now have up to 13 weeks paid leave of absence for for sickness or illness. You would need to put in evidence of that, but you can get up to 13 weeks paid leave now. So if you have a kind of longer term health concern, you can put that in. So just asks you for the start dates of your leave and the end date of your leave. That'll help us with calculating. If you do put an end date and you feel you can come back before that, then don't worry about that. You can come back and we'll just amend it, at a later date. This is going to ask me to put in details, so I'm just going to fire in a few details. If it's maternity, your evidence obviously would be the MAP B1 form. Anything else could be, hospital, doctor's lines, anything like that you would need to upload. So, and you just pick the reason. So I'll just say it's health related. The one thing I would say is you can't take a leave of absence for the purposes of employment if you're on a funded programme. You would basically be giving up your scholarship if you did that. So you can do that if you're part-time, obviously. And the reason quite often for our part-time researchers might be employment because you're overwhelmed at work or whatever it is. So that's just a small note there. I'll just put evidence and pretend I've been to the doctor. Then just a wee update on progress with research to date. So anticipated date of completion, that'll still be about 4 or 5 years down the line, but I'll just put in an easy date for here. And then you just basically confirm and submit. There is a section on notes here, and it just makes it clear that who can view the notes. But I'm just going to confirm. So you'll see in the status bar that it's now waiting for your supervisor to review. So most of the requests that you put, any change request, and this would apply to all of them if you're changing your project title or changing mode of study, they'll all go through a kind of approval process. So normally the first place it will go is with your supervisor to write their their views on that, if they're in support of a leave. If they have issues with it, or if the evidence isn't, if they want more, they can ping it back to you. and you'll get notification that they just need something else or clarification of what it is. So there is that process within the system where they can pass the form back to you to add more information. And that's basically it. What will happen is it'll go from the supervisor, it'll go up to your research director for approval, and then you would get notification of that. So there are guidance on leaves of absence and things like that within the system. And when you go into the system, there's actually more information. The test system doesn't show you all the guidance that there actually is available. So for example, for leave of absence, it's a maximum of 1 year that you can take on a leave. And there'll be, there's information on other processes within that. So that was change request, and say I've only covered leave of absence. The other ones are probably straightforward. You would know it's quite clear on what you need to upload for different sections. The only other one I wanted to go through in this first section is absence. So as I say, it's slightly different from the leave of absence in that this is really for short-term absence. So if you look at these reasons here, it's kind of like annual leave. So you get 40 days of annual leave, but there's days when the university's closed and you have to take them. So you have about floating leave of about 26 or 28 days, depending. Obviously, when the university's closed over Christmas and Easter, you kind of need to take that as part of your 40 days, if you know what I mean. So just record leave when you come to it through this process, absence process, not leave of absence. Sickness, if it's going to be less than 2 weeks, you can do that, and it does give you the guidance that if it's going to be more than that, a leave of absence would be more appropriate. So I'm not going to process this, it's just asking you for a start and end date, and it'll ask you for a few other bits of information, just more for pastoral, so that we know where you are when you're on leave and things like that. It's got more information here in case you're studying for authorised absence, if you're going to be at a conference or anything like that. It's asking for a wee bit more information on that. So that is the absence process, as different from the leave of absence. The very last part then of your dashboard would go into the training development side of things, which I know Lisa has probably covered quite a bit, in the induction sessions. But this section basically would be one of the first things you probably want to discuss with your supervisor. So there's a training needs analysis where you would go through and assess your current skill level against various different indicators. That would lead into a training plan, which then basically it would, if I had done that, it would it would tell you what you need to do. It would identify areas, skills gaps and whatever. And the training log then is where you would log any training that you have done. I'm going to jump into the live system to show you how this actually works. All the training programs that Lisa has on offer would map against the, these like B1 personal qualities, B2 self-management. It would map against that. So if you have rated yourself as being, having a skills gap in any of these areas, you can actually filter the research or development training programs by these levels, if you know what I mean, to identify the best training courses for you. So the log would be here. Any upcoming events is just a record of what you have, and these are attendance at any training courses that you have. So again, it's just basically your training log, split up into different sections for this. So I'm going to now just jump into, if it's still open, this is the live system. So this is just me and as myself. So this is probably more in line with what you'll be seeing when you log in. So the notice board has some information. So you'll find here probably gives you the link to the the research integrity. Of course, can't find it when I need it. It's actually last year's link, but it's in there. So any kind of updates in that would be recorded on this notice board. let me see what else. So the other two areas then that I wanted to go into was just to show you, and you might have already been, if you've managed to book this program via PhD Manager, you've probably already been to this section. This just lists all the training programs that are on offer that you can book. And down the right hand side here, it will, you know, as I said, you'll be able to filter by any skills gaps that you have identified through your training needs analysis. So you can either just look at them all and see what takes your fancy, or you can filter it. Also, you can filter by campus if it's an in-person event. As Lisa's probably mentioned, there's a mix of in-person and online events. So that is where you would find out about events and workshops. The last section is this guide section, which if my computer would keep working, there we go. It's on a go slow, I think. The guide section basically gives you information on all of the processes that are held within PhD Manager. So it'll show you what your researcher dashboard is like. You can have a look and see what your supervisor dashboard is like if you want. Change requests. So there's a lot more information here about the different change requests and what you might need. Just a little bit of detail on that. And then if you go right down, let me just see. I was going to take an example. So say you come to the stage where you're needing to complete your annual report. You'll probably get prompted for that round about the start of April with a deadline of 1st of May to submit that. And you don't want to initiate until you've, you know, maybe thought about it a little bit. What you can do is you can go into the annual report printable version, so or an on-screen version, and it will show you what you need to submit without initiating the request in the system, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to try and see if this will open up. So this is just a lot more detail on how to progress the request, the screens you click through, and then it'll show you exactly what, you know, questions are going to be asked. Just for any of these processes, it's quite useful to know that before you go and initiate a request, just so you have everything ready. So they're all available within the guide section. And just have a scroll through these at your leisure. You might want to look at the initial assessment one. The other thing I was going to say is you can also see what, you know, your supervisor screen, what they're being asked for. You know, if you had any interest in that, you can look through these, as I say, at your leisure. The very end section of the guides section is video training guides. So if you don't find what you're looking for within, you know, the kind of on-screen versions of the guides, you can go into this section here, which will take you into Panopto, which is just a platform for videos. And you can say you wanted, I don't know, if you might want to, you know, look at how to record a supervision meeting. And you can see the videos here. That's only 1 minute 36 long, 54 seconds long. They're not long videos, but they will take you through how to record a supervision meeting, for example, in video format, just in case that's easier for you to understand. So hopefully there's enough resources here that will you know, will help you through the process. I now can't get rid of this screen. Right. So yeah, that's just another thing that you might find interesting is to know that the guides are there. I'm going to actually stop presenting now. Yeah, that was probably all that I had to cover. Just a quick run through of the system. Don't be afraid by it. It's quite self-explanatory. But if your supervisors will be aware as well if you have any issues, so you can either ask us, look at the guides, look at the videos, or ask your supervisors for help if you're having problems with anything. I don't know if any of you had any other questions. If you want to unmute yourself, or is Sarah, how's the chat been, Sarah?
I think it's okay. Yes, I hope I'm answering questions with enough information for folks. Yeah.
So
I have a question. I have a question.
Oh, yep. Go ahead. Yeah.
Last year I was using PhD Manager for some training as well, but this year I was given different email address, and but those certificates will be transferred to this PhD Manager, or I can get by email. I'm especially looking for that introduction to teaching, that certificate that will allow me.
So were you on an MRes program last year?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and then it's a combined program with a PhD.
This
Sarah, how does
PhD
that work? How does that work?
It
So
should-
when you be
and I don't have
Yeah.
access to my previous PhD managers, so
Yeah,
I'm not able to download them or something.
Svetlana, have you been on your PhD, your PhD account on PhD Manager? Have you checked
Yeah,
your training log to see if it's pulling across?
I don't have access to that master's PhD manager from August.
that's right, because it'll have
Yes,
changed,
but
given your newbie number, so it probably won't, Sarah, will it?
It doesn't appear at all.
On your new
Like the
account?
search. Yeah, it doesn't appear at
Yeah.
all. It's only student and home. Like it doesn't appear at all.
right,
We'll need to
leave
get,
that
well,
with us.
Lisa will
Yeah.
be able to do that for you. It's not a problem. So it's good to bring it up though, because you do want the whole history on your record. We can take a wee note, Sarah, can we, just to check with Lisa's team, and they can get that uploaded. That's no
Okay, thank you.
problem.
Mhm.
That's great. I see a question coming through there just about how to add a supervisor name from Francis. That's a good question there. So the supervisor change form is actually one of the few that has to be initiated from your local research support area. And if somebody is missing that should be on your team, then just get them to initiate that request for you. So it would be do you know who your UA admin person is, who your local level admin person is, Francis, or what research area would you be? Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. If you know who to contact, sports. So Julie Haydock, then if you just contact her and say there's someone missing from your team, she has to initiate. That's the one form that she has to initiate herself. So that's a good question. Oh, Peter has a question.
Yes, I have a question. I'm new to the university. I have been having problem with the PhD master manager to get into that. So I have been writing email forward and back to try and get me access. The system is asking me for a change of password, because I was putting you have to put about two or three different different area passwords to get into this thing, because you go through what's it called, Microsoft, and then they do that package, and then you move to the next one. So one of them locked me out, you see. So I've been writing email forward and back, and I keep getting the same email, just do that. And each time I do that, it doesn't take me anywhere. So I am.
Have you had have you had a named contact with ISD or with the technical?
Yes, I have somebody there, but I can't pick up the name now. But in the doctoral college, I've been talking to a lady called Kate.
Kate, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Kate. So Kate has been very good. Yesterday, she sent an email on my behalf, asking them to try and resolve the access issue.
Yeah.
The same old email they sent to me again, which doesn't make sense because it's not moving me forward.
Right.
So
Well,
I think
we'll get that escalated then. They obviously, yeah, we'll escalate that for you, Peter. I'll
be
speak to
grateful.
Kate. She's just outside after us. Because that would be quite, important to get you access. I'll see who Kate's been talking to in ISD, and we'll try and get that resolved for you.
Thank
We'll
you.
make a wee note there. Thanks for bringing that up, Peter. Thank you. Is there any other questions anyone has? I can't see any other hands. Sarah, can you see any other hands? Oh, here we go. How can I reach the page where oh, lost the chat there. It popped up. How can I reach the page where I can see my assigned supervisors? Right, so that's just on your, let me see. So if you, oh, hang on, I'll share this again. Just, let me just share this. So if you are, as soon as you log in to PhD Manager, it'll basically open up on this page here. Let me see. Actually, Sarah, does it open up on the page before that, or? It'll open up on this page here, which is just a summary page, which doesn't have your supervisors. But if you click into the section that says PhD Research Project, then your supervisors are listed here. And that'll also include if you have any external supervisors. So some people might have, supervisors if you're working in the healthcare area. You might have supervisors who are based in the hospital, for example. Who are externals at Ulster University. They'll also be recorded on that. So if you want to all just have a check that all your supervisors are listed, and if there's any issues with that, if anyone's missing from the team who you know is on your team, just give your local unit admin person a wee shout, and they'll hopefully be able to help you with that. Okay. Any other questions? Or I think, Sarah, you've been doing a good job covering the chat. If anyone has any other questions after, you might not think of them just now. Don't be afraid to drop us a wee email or give us a ring. Or we're on campus. We're kind of nearly set up. We came in the first day and there was no power, but now we have power, so we're at the offices now if you need any help with anything. Oh, Peter?
Yes, you were talking about the annual reports. Yeah, and there were two categories, one for the internal students, if you like, and one for the long distance learning students.
For the annual report?
Yeah, you're talking about that comes in every January.
Yep. Yeah,
right.
that's for all students' annual report. It's just that sometimes we have people who don't start till January, so it doesn't apply to any of you. It's just we have people who start in January and they say, well, why am I submitting a report in April when I've only been here 3 months? It was just really an example of I suppose just to let you know that no matter when you start, we still will require the report every May. So that was all that was. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
That is a good integrate PhD manager event. Yeah, the event calendar with.
I think that there is our instructions on how to do that in the guides.
Yes, I think we did look. I think you can do that, can't you? There was actually one of our PhD researchers who was on the call last year was able to tell us.
No, Gwen, don't tell them
it.
that. No.
So
yeah, it's near the end of the guide section under the heading 9.3.
Okay.
Calendar, how to add a PhD manager calendar to Outlook.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the big questions at the start of it. Oh yeah. Yes, Cassie, I think you can do it now. As I say, we were on the call last year and one of the researchers actually told us how to do it. So it's now in the guides. Yeah. We should maybe tell the rest of our staff that. No, that's great. That's great. Well, listen, if that's all, I'll not keep you any longer. But no, it's great to see you all. I hope that was in some way helpful, just to give you a wee idea of kind of things you will be doing with the system or what you can do with it. And yeah, but don't be afraid, to give us a shout if you're struggling with anything. And yep, good to see you all this morning.
Yes,
we're going to go away and say goodbye to our dean now, who you met in
Yes.
induction. So, yeah.
We have a new dean starting very soon. But
Yeah.
you'll hear more.
Professor Son, you
Right,
might
can
get
I,
that.
can I ask a question? You see the session is recorded, but where I can view this recording, where I can find this recording?
We will circulate that. Well, Lisa will circulate that. I think probably as part of
right,
the
okay.
emails. If it's not in her Wednesday email, we'll certainly circulate it to
circulated.
everyone
I think
separately
as
then.
well, if you go back into the chat of this meeting in like an hour or two's time, the recording automatically pops up in the chat. So if you wanted to get it that way a bit earlier as well, then that'd be grand.
Okay, thank you.
It might not stay there indefinitely. So if you want, you can if you want to get it that way, then I would download it as well. So you
Yeah,
have it.
just-
It might
yeah,
disappear
it-
off the chat. I'm not sure how long it holds it for there.
Yeah, it sometimes takes maybe like half an hour to an hour, and then it'll pop up in the chat. But then, as Sarah says, it might disappear. So we'll see. We'll
Maybe a
get
week
it
or
set
two.
out definitely as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, but will be sent by email anyway, the link to this.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
All
Thanks
right.
everyone then.
Thanks,
Enjoy
everyone.
the rest of your sunny Wednesday. Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.